Behind me here is the very latest Sunseeker Manhattan 68 2025. Now, if that sounds like a little bit of a mouthful, bear with me, because this is much more than just a new model year change. There is a completely new layout, a completely new interior, and I have to say it's way more interesting than I'd first expected. So let's get on board, take a proper look. My name is Hugo Andreae, you're watching Motorboat and Yachting. Let's go and tour it. Okay, very quick look at the stats, and you can see it is 69 foot 7 inches long, it is 17 foot 3 inches wide, and has a total of up to 4 guest cabins. Now, you can probably tell from those dimensions that it is the same hull as the previous Manhattan 68, but you wait and see what they've done on the inside. Now, this beach club area, that did exist on the previous version, but you can see it does look very cool, especially when you've got it all kitted out with the diving gear, the mast, the snorkels, the sea bob. And I should point out that this sea bob here, that stows away under here. If you lift this up, oh, it's a little bit stiff. There we go. If you lift that up, you can see there is in fact space for 2 sea bobs on these mats. And when you sink this hydraulic platform down into the water, this little lip folds down, and then it's very easy just to slide them off into the sea, which frankly is a good thing because they are damn heavy. Right, so lovely folding teak bench. You've got the dive bottles and everything all racked up there, and if you look up above me here, you'll see there is an overhead shower built into that garage lid. So very cool. You can jump in, come out of the sea, give yourself a freshwater shower, get all the salt off your body. We've got passerelles and so on in the steps. We've got shore power leads and another shower tucked into the staircase here. And of course, we have the crew cabin. We'll have a very quick peek inside here. Now, if you don't have crew on board, you probably will on a yacht this side, but if you don't have crew, you can have this as a lazarette. You can also see it is a laundry built in down here. Crucially, there is also an ensuite bathroom and shower. And I say crucially because some people, if you haven't got crew, then it's very nice to have a bathroom on this platform that you can just immediately access it. And of course, it means you've got a loo, a toilet on hand without having to go on board. But that is just the start. Let's go and have a proper look on board, because that's where the major changes have happened. So we'll have a quick scoot around the decks first of all. Nice wide side decks leading up to the foredeck lounge. And that has always been a strong point on this boat, because at 68 foot you get a really proper amount of space, and that means you've got room for a lovely sociable U-shaped seating area, a proper table. These sunpads here, you can see we've got the headrests propped up at the moment, but they will also lie flat, and then you've got face-to-face seating, lovely spot to sit and have a drink right on the foredeck here. Obviously most comfortable when you're at anchor, because then you won't get the breeze of running along, but good deep tow rails all around, so it feels nice and secure up here. Small but perfectly neat and well organized crewing area for dealing with ground tackle and so on. There's that foredeck lounge again. Big lockers either side, so you've also got space for lines and fenders and things. But let's keep moving on. You can see there is access through to the helm from this side door here, so of course very handy if you're helming. It's really nice to keep that door open, makes it quick to run out onto the deck, talk to your crew. Really good stern gear arrangement here. You've got a winch, big cleat, little locker for your lines, and of course controls for all the beach club platform, lights, door, etc. They're all electric, so it's very easily done. You also notice you've got a great big speaker built into that coaming there. Steps up to the Flybridge. Let's go and have a quick look up here, because there's been some fairly big changes up here. And one of those is this completely enormous seating area here. They have expanded this whole area into one big table. Obviously that means you've got room for a massive sort of party space. You can have freestanding chairs up here. You could easily seat 10 around that table. all protected by this hardtop. This section here you can probably see is an awning, an electric awning that comes out and gives you shade all the way to the back of the boat, but equally that all folds and tucks up if you want to have a bit of sunshine on this rear section of the seating area. Table obviously folds in if you want to have a slightly more compact arrangement. The other big difference is that this whole seating area here, you can see it's both the helm seat and the dinette. If you want to create yet more space, this whole thing slides forward. You can see the rails there. That obviously then becomes the helm seat, so you're much closer. At the moment you need to have arms about 6 feet long, but once you slide it forward, that's a perfectly natural helming position, and then of course you get an even bigger seating area around the table. And the other thing I really like about this helm station is that as well as the seats around it, you've got this sort of sunbathing lounging area in front, so a really sociable spot. You can comfortably sit yourself in front of the wheel and be completely surrounded by guests, family, crew. It's a really nice sociable way to go cruising. You've also got this great big sunroof overhead, so even though you've got the protection of a hardtop, you can open it up, and that is an absolutely massive gap. That's got to be 6 foot long there, and it's the full width of the hardtop, so you really do get the best of both worlds. You can have shade when you want it, you can have sunshine when you want it. Very smart, well-equipped helm station. Got a height adjustable wheel or an angle adjustable wheel. I can't really do it one-handed, but you can see we've got all the multi-function controls built into it. Throttles, bow and stern thrusters, and of course that Aventix joystick. So this is what we call it has a V-drive arrangement, so it is on shafts, but rather than straight shafts, they're a V-drive and they go back under the boat. But I'll talk you through that when we get into the actual engine room. Wet bar over on this side, really heavy moulding that. Properly chunky, smooth on both sides. Big draining sink, Kenyan grill, ice maker, fridge. All the kit you'd expect, and that lovely seating here. Right, let's go back down. The other thing I should point out is that they've reduced the size of the mouldings around here. If you have a look at one of the previous boats over there, you can see that quite chunky moulding there. What they've done here is just narrow it down, slim it down, have more guardrails around it, and you just have a more open aspect from when you're sat at this lounge or sort of dining area here. You have a slightly lighter profile and a better view out. Also made some small but quite significant tweaks to these grab rails. Can you see that's oval shaped, beautifully finished? A little bit more of that kind of super yacht style seeping into the way it looks. Right, let's go back down these steps. Always easier to go backwards, I find. And start to have a look at the layout here, because this is another big change. So rather than a small C-shaped table, they've gone for this much bigger, much more open L-shaped settee in the cockpit. And the reason they've done that is because it links so nicely to this indoor-outdoor area of the dining room and galley. So big L shape. We've got a relatively small table here. You can have a much bigger one, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment once we've had a look at how this all ties together, because what they have done here is create a really kind of homely kitchen cum dining area, is what you call it in a home. Here obviously it's galley, but rather than having a separate galley on one side and a small dining table over on the other, they've combined the whole thing into one sort of sociable living area. So you can see this worktop here is all part of the galley. We've got the main sink and oven and grill and everything over on this side, but it wraps all the way around the dining table here, so that you're all part of this one living area. Lots of flexibility, or should I say versatility here too, because you can arrange this in a number of different ways. For instance, if you want a more open aspect, you don't have to have these eye-level lockers up here. You can either have a glass sort of separator in there, you can have these slats, or you can have nothing at all. So if you want it fully open to the saloon area further forward, you can do that. Equally, if you want a more separation, you can have slightly more sort of formal separation with a glass bar or sort of screen there. The other thing you can do is that this area here, rather than this freestanding formal dining area, you can have a banquette arrangement. And if you do that, you have a sort of L shape with a seat running along here and round the side there. And the big difference there is that the backrest of the seat that comes this way can then fold over so that it faces out into this area, and you can then have a much bigger dining table here and a really sociable arrangement where the sort of indoor-outdoor zones completely meld together and become one kind of socializing space. So lots of different options, really versatile arrangement. Quick look at some of the galley kit. You've got a big fridge on this side, you've got 2 freezer drawers there, 1, 2, full-size oven, 4-burner induction hob. Over here we've got a full-size dishwasher. Again, one of the big driving factors was to try and make everything full-size domestic quality appliances. We've got a wine fridge over there. So it's all the kind of comfort and equipment that you would find at home. Now, the other big thing to choose when you're speccing this boat is whether you go for 2 separate staircases down below or 1. So here you can see there is a staircase down, and that leads down to the owner's cabin. But if you would rather have a larger saloon area, you can delete that staircase there and have the access forward via the solitary companionway leading down there. So the way you have it here, you have a bit more privacy in the owner's cabin. It's a marginally smaller saloon, but again, you've got the choice of exactly how you want to do it. Now, completely new interior decor on this boat. It is a design unlimited creation, and it's a very nice kind of mellow feel with a few more different finishes. We've got a bit more lacquer, very nice pale fabrics, lots of color, or lots of texture, subtle differences, but it's a bit less bling and a bit more mellow, but really nice, fresh kind of modern feel. Now in this variant, we've got a fixed TV. If you delete that staircase, you can then have the TV behind a side cabinet over there, and it's a high-low television mechanism, so you can hide that away if you want to. But to be honest, there is plenty of space here. The other thing they have done is that on the previous boat, there was a small sort of chaise longue arrangement opposite the helm, which meant that you had a slightly smaller seating area here. By deleting that chaise longue and extending it into one big sofa settee, you just have a much bigger combined social unit. So a little bit of choice whether you prefer the separate chaise longue or the longer solution. I think this works better because it just creates a more open space. Really big windows all the way around. That was always a strong point of the previous boat anyway, but you just notice it a bit more. The only slight downside for me is that big fixed television, which does feel slightly imposing. It slightly dominates, and it would be nicer to have something that hid away a bit more so that you could admire the views out. Helm station here. Quite smart arrangement with the bench. You can see it's just hidden behind this curved moulding here. Again, that's more of that kind of lacquered finish, but lots of nice subtle changes in material, texture and so on. You've got wood, you've got leather, you've got lacquer. Bench has a bolstering section so you can sit or stand. Here's that helm door. Lock and unlock electronically, but swings open, so you've got lots of nice fresh air coming in there, and of course very easy to get out on the sign deck, communicate with the crew. Really business-like helm station, big Simrad screens in front, MAN controls for the engines, we'll have a look at that in a minute. Repeat of all the key elements, obviously throttles, bow and stern thrusters, there's that Aventix joystick, Lenco trim tabs, and of course here we've got controls for other elements. This gives you access to all the boat's systems, electronics and so on. This one here, CMC controls, that is for the electronic fin stabilizers. Let's drop down into the master cabin. So here is that separate stairwell. Curves around and into the master suite. Now, at this size of boat, you have plenty of space and headroom. You've got flat ceiling, flat floor, lots of space all the way around the bed. Again, some really nice new shapes and textures. Oval table, leather top, little vanity unit mirror, velvet lined or suede lined for all your jewels and so on, watches, whatever it may be. Nice new finishing on here, sort of lacquered plank work, big windows, lots of options here too. Here we've got the sofa arrangement. You can have a little sort of breakfast dining area there if you want just two facing seats, a little table between them. Television on the bulkhead over here. Some nice detailing for the storage, for instance. If you open that, you can see that whole curved section opens up, but lots of little details, shelves, fiddle shelves to store, I don't know, socks, whatever it may be, ties. But very smart that the way that integrates that section there. More storage under here, and of course ensuite bathroom. Little sparkly veins running through that marble, rather smart. Window in here, mirror in front of it. Big shower, we've got the overhead rain shower here, as well as a separate handheld one. Toilet down here. So, now if you don't go for the separate staircase, what happens is that the access comes through that bulkhead there. So you come back on yourself through the other stairwell and then come through there. And I'll talk about how that affects the layout of the rest of the boat. So let's go back up and have a look down at the other cabins. So this is the other access going down to the rest of the guest cabins. And what I meant was if you delete that other staircase down, then you turn around the corner here and a chunk of this cabin here is sacrificed to make access through into the master cabin. Now what that means is that of course you lose some of the space in here, and in that case you have a much smaller fourth cabin with bunk beds. But this is one of the sort of big benefits of going for this option, is you get a really decent fourth cabin, and that is properly good sized beds. They look like they're a good 3 foot wide, plenty of headroom up above me, and really good headroom. That's got to be close to 7 feet, certainly more than 6.5, but good space all around, good light, good headroom, decent sized beds, fairly small step down, proper storage. So for a fourth cabin, that is really very sizable, but that is the sacrifice you make if you want to have that larger full beam saloon. You end up with a slightly smaller fourth cabin. Now here is the day heads. Obviously this is the bathroom that fourth cabin will use, but you've got a really good size shower in there, separate compartment, decent bit of light and space, and of course it works really well as a day heads because you've got the staircase on your right hand side leading down to here, so day guests can use that as well as your fourth cabin guests. Right, let's go through into the VIP. That is in the traditional position forward in the bow. And what I like about this is that you've got this little lobby area. So rather than walking straight into the bed, if I just close that door, you'll see that there is quite a good little entranceway here, which just gives the cabin a bit more volume than most. A lot of them, the door would be here, and then it all feels a bit cramped. By having that little lobby area, it opens it up. Of course, that provides access through into the ensuite bathroom. Good sized bathroom too. Separate shower in there. And then the cabin itself. All these VIPs tend to feel a little bit samey just because you've got the shape of the boat where it begins to narrow and taper towards the bow. But good untapered bed, really nice depth to it, good thick mattress, no tapering of the corners. It is a proper rectangular 6'6" bed, I would say, in terms of length, and that looks like 5 foot wide. So good queen size bed, nice hull windows running around there, plenty of storage all the way around in these eye level lockers. This is quite an interesting look. The fabric here for the blinds, I don't know if you can see, but it's very kind of textured. It almost looks like sort of paper bark or something, but rather than wooden slats or material, just a nice textured, quite different looking material. Plenty of storage, hanging locker there. Very nice little mirrored unit there. Lots of detailing, even the shelves here are properly fiddled. But really nice to have a good mirror, full, not quite full length, but half height mirror so you can check yourself out. Nice detailing in the doors here, little stainless steel strips, very smart furniture. And then the third cabin on this side, again, good sized lobby area leading down into it so it doesn't feel too cramped. Really good headroom. There's a couple of steps down. If you look here, there's one step and then another step down into there. But what that does mean is that when you're down in this space, there's really good headroom all the way along, even here between the beds, plenty of headroom, but especially in this kind of lobby area, you've got even more headroom. Like the other twin cabin, these two beds can slide together if you want to, so you can create it into a double. Good big window, opening porthole, lots of storage. Now this will also have to share that bathroom over there, so two of those cabins are not en suite, they share that one, but you know what? That's a relatively small price to pay because you've got such a good sized cabin. Right. Should point out there's extra storage under all of these. And of course, all the usual detailing. If we look above in these lockers, you can see you've got all the glassware and so on, all perfectly stored away. Right. Let's have a quick look down in the engine room then. This is obviously where the important stuff happens. So, MAN V8 engines, you can have either 1,000 horsepower or 1,200 horsepower. If you go for the 1,200s, you should get a top speed of around about 32 knots. And the V-drive that I mentioned earlier, so we are now facing towards the bow of the boat. And I don't know if you can see under here, but the shaft, no, it's all a little bit hidden under the tanks, but basically the shaft comes out this way, goes through a reverse gearbox and then goes back under the engine towards the back of the boat. The advantage of that is it makes the whole thing a bit more compact. You can have the engines further back in the boat, freeing up more space for those cabins. Right, not a lot of room to move around these. And of course, that is the downside. It just means that everything has to be packed into a smaller engine room. You see we've got generator over there, MAN systems, those are the big exhausts coming off the engine. That looks like the hot water calorifier. You can have a little bit of a poke around there. I can see hydraulics and things, presumably. Oh no, it's not, it's electronic fins, isn't it? So that's probably for the steering and so on. One more thing to point out here, you'll notice behind me here are the strut supports for the Flybridge. And one of the things they've done there is just put a pronounced angle in it, and that means they used to come down in a vertical line here. By putting that kink in it, again, it frees up the view, creates a bit more space, and crucially, you can now have a privacy blind running between those two. So if you're moored stern to in a Mediterranean marina, you can have a privacy blind that comes down and just gives you exactly what it says, a bit more privacy in the cockpit. So, prices for this boat, they start at £2.45 million for the boat with 1,000 horsepower engines. I think it's more like 2.55 if you go for the bigger 1200s. But you can see it is a very different boat to the previous Manhattan 68. You've got a completely new look, completely new layout, and really good versatility in terms of how you choose to lay it out, with that dining room, the banquette, the 3 or 4 cabin options, the separate entrances, and so on. So really interesting for me to show you around it, but always keen to know what you make of it in the comments. So please do let me know, and as always, thank you very much for watching.